Okay, guys, so time for another story at the beginning of our classes. And today's story is called When Smart People Make Stupid Decisions. And already I saw some people talking that that's a story about me. I think sometimes we probably all feel that way. And maybe sometimes we feel the opposite, as I know Alex pointed out yesterday, of being a stupid person making smart decisions sometimes. So, whichever way it is, we're going to hear a story where that happened. So, let us get back into our time machine and travel to the year 1987. It's a little bit farther back than we've been before, and we're gonna go to China in 1987. And during this time, there was a very young man who was 17 years old, and he had a girlfriend, and he didn't live close to his girlfriend, and he was going to school, university. He was studying math and engineering, I think, and he wanted to visit his girlfriend on the weekends. But in order to do that, he had to get into one of these trains that looked a little something like this. And it was really not a very good experience because there were a lot of people there, sometimes not even any places to sit. It didn't smell very good. And he didn't have to just sit there for an hour, but he had to sit there for 10 hours to get from where he was to his girlfriend. And while he would do this, he would dream a little bit and he would think, what if in the future there was a device that would let you see the other person and talk to another person, but you didn't have to be right next to them? What if that could happen? Yes, Andrew, you have something to say.
I have a guess about what this company is.
Okay.
Did it turn into Zoom?
Ah, that's a very good guess. That's a very good guess. Any other guesses about what this story could be about?
Skype?
Skype. That's a very good guess as well.
Oh,
So,
I'm kind of make it. Hello.
Skype was created in Estonia, though. I knew that because I used to live there.
oh, cool.
FaceTime. Hello, FaceTime.
Hey, FaceTime, as Sydney is saying. All of those are very good guesses.
I
So,
was thinking maybe Morse code.
Morse code. This is like 100 years after Morse code or so. But yeah, so he's thinking about this. Like, I mean, what if, I want to actually create that technology. So he gets this idea, call it his passion project. I know some of you guys are working on passion projects. That's where this idea came to be. And he knew that he wanted to create something like this. Now, fast forward a couple of years into the future, it's the 90s. And it is there's a lot of stuff happening, especially in the U.S. because the internet is taking off. People are learning about this thing that lets you uh, order books online rather than having to go to the store, for example. And all of these things are just starting out. And the people that are really into technology, they know that something special is happening. And most of this stuff is happening in U.S. as it is in a lot of these cases. And so this person, who by the way is called Eric Yuan, he knew that he needed to get himself over to the US in order to be part of this thing. And so he thought, okay, I'm not very good at English. In fact, I don't know any English, so I better start learning that. And so he started to make his plans to move over to the US. And it took him a very long time to do so because he apparently, according to some interviews that I've listened to of his, apparently it took him between 10 to 20 times to apply for a visa to finally actually get accepted. So he really wanted to leave China and go there. So
China and USA were not friends then?
China and the USA were friends. I'm not so sure if they were friends, but at least these things weren't happening as much in China as it was in the US, and he wanted to be a part of that. Yes, some people want to say something. Sydney, go ahead.
Eric Yuan is the CEO of Zoom.
You went ahead and searched that. Yep, that's true. Is the story of Zoom? Andrew, you want to say something?
So why did it take so long to get a visa?
Good question. Because it's really hard to get a visa to the US because a lot of people want to go there and the processes there aren't that effective. And sometimes people think that, on paper, a person doesn't look that impressive. So I don't know what the reason is, but it took him a very long time to get there. But he did finally in 1997 get a visa, and he moved to the US. And he wanted to get a job, and he got to join a company called WebEx Meetings that were actually creating this technology that he dreamed about 10 years ago. And they were making this program that would let businesses talk to each other remotely through the internet, through the web. And so he was, I believe, one of the 21st people that started working there. And initially, he wanted to actually work there as a marketer or a business type of person, but he didn't know any English. His English was very bad, basically. And so he thought, what can I do? Well, I can code, so maybe I can just get a job there as an engineer. And so he did. And this company started doing really well. In fact, it did so well that in a couple of years, it was bought by a much bigger company called Cisco. And so WebEx became Cisco WebEx. And it was the software that businesses would use in the 2000s to do business, basically like video calling. And I actually remember my father using this at his company like 10, 15 years ago. I would visit him sometimes, and they would be using the software. So it was really, really big. It was the biggest software. Now, of course, when an acquisition happened, which means, a smaller company is bought by a bigger company, usually almost every one of those people go to work at this other company. Now, what also happens is that sometimes when a bigger company buys you, they start making a lot of the decisions that are not always that good because, they're much bigger. So that's what started happening. And Eric was really, really concerned about the customer because he really wanted to make sure that the customers were having a good experience using something that he was a part of building. But when he spoke to customers, which apparently not a lot of people did back then in Cisco, but he was one of them, he found out that they were really unhappy. They didn't really like the product they were using. They were kind of forced to use it because it was basically the only thing that existed. And so he was like, we have to do something about that. I mean, this is not good. And so he went to his bosses and he told them that this is what the customers are saying. I think we can do much better. So I think we should start something new that solves a lot of the problems that exist with this WebEx thing. And so that's what he pitched to his bosses. What do you guys think his bosses said to that? Yeah, Rayan, go ahead.
I was actually saying something else.
Uh-huh.
Isn't Eric supposed to be the boss because he he had the idea?
Very good question. He was not, because even though he had the idea back in 1987, when he moved to 1997 to the US, he started working as an employee at this company. So someone else had already started building it, and he was only an employee, and then they got bought by this bigger company. Yes.
So the bigger company's
bosses were the ones making the decisions. Yes. Andrew, go ahead. What do you want to say?
I'm going to guess that his bosses rejected the idea, so he started his own company called Zoom.
There you go. Well, that's, how it goes, right? And so that is actually the story. Alex, do you also want to say something? Were you going to say the same thing?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. And that's what happens so many times. The bosses, what happens when you become a boss at a big company, you start making a lot of money. You're maybe not as concerned about your customer because you have like this paycheck coming in. You're making millions of dollars sometimes. And they were like, yeah, you know what? We already think at this point there's so many other programs like this, like Skype and all these other things like FaceTime. I don't think we need to start building something new. The market is already so saturated. That's what it's called. There's so many things that exist already. And so Eric was like, okay, well, they didn't buy the idea, but I really think that we can do something better. So he started his own company. And that was started in 2011. And of course, you guys have guessed already, it was Zoom, which we are using right now. The technology that was started by this person who had a really hard time coming to the US. It started in 2011. And not many people knew about it then. It took them some time to gain popularity. But, of course, as we all know, something big happened this year in 2020. It was the corona crisis. And what did that mean for businesses? Yes, Andrew?
They had to do a lot of Zoom meetings.
Exactly. Is there anyone here who has parents that use a lot of Zoom as part of their work?
use Microsoft.
They use Microsoft. They use
Yeah,
other
my
things.
dad uses Skype.
Yep. Uses Skype.
My
Yes,
dad
I
uses
have Microsoft.
Teams, Microsoft Teams.
Right. So there are other competitors as well. But basically, what happened was that in 2019, last year, in December, Zoom had about 10 million monthly active users. Basically means that 10 million people are using it on a kind of a daily or monthly basis. Anyone care to guess what that number is right now? Yeah, Finn?
Well, two things. I think it's a lot higher.
Uh-huh.
But I also used Zoom way before the pandemic.
Well, I did too. We did too. We were using it before. Yes, Alex.
I think I used this in 2018.
I think that they have 800, no, a million users a day.
A million users a day. Okay. So are you saying like 30 million users a month? Monthly active?
Monthly, yeah. Like
Mm-hmm. Okay.
30
So
million.
big jump from 10 to 30 million. Uh-huh. Very good guess. Anyone else? Andrew? Yeah?
I think it was 10 times the original amount.
Okay. So 100 million.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Good guess. Rayan, do you want to say something?
Maybe 10 million people every day, so 300 million per month.
Uh-huh. Well, it's actually it's that number. Last time I checked, it was around 250 million, I believe, and it's probably increased to even more than that. But they went from 10 million to 2 to 300 million in less than a year. Now, that is some insane growth. So, of course, as a result, has anyone here heard about Cisco? Anyone heard about Cisco before I mentioned it to you guys?
San Francisco.
No, not San Francisco. Cisco, the company. Not that many people,
Yeah,
but
they do my networking.
you know, Finn, because you're into this stuff. But most people, yeah, Andrew.
So I read this book called The Ultimate History of Video Games, and I think during the 1980s boom, didn't they try their hand at manufacturing video games?
Something like that. Yeah, that's when they started in the 1980s. But the point is that not that many people use Cisco anymore, but a lot of people use Zoom. In fact, people use Zoom so much now that it's almost become a verb at this point. Let's do a Zoom call, you know? That wasn't a thing that a long time ago. So in 1 year, it went from almost no one knowing about it to a lot of people knowing about it. Pretty insane. And so that's the story of Zoom. So the thing that we can learn from this is that if you have an idea and you think that there's something to it and you have your own reason, don't give up so easily if you go pitch it to your parents or us or, I don't know, your teachers at school or other smart people, and they say, you know, okay, we don't need to do that. It's not that good. Because that has literally happened so many times in history. And every single generation has new people, young people that come up and build new things that solve new problems that always go past the big thing that existed. Because Cisco at one time was something that everyone knew about, but that's not the case anymore. And so, yeah, don't take no for an answer that fast is basically what I'm trying to say. Yes, so closing comments to this. Rayan, go ahead.
It's like every time when someone supports you in like the project doesn't blow up that much, and then when you're just doing it alone and then make a community, it just blows up so much.
Isn't that a crazy thing? Because what does that mean? If someone supports you a lot, then presumably a lot of other people are having the same idea around the world, which means a lot of people are working on it, which means also that probably a lot of big companies are working on that, which means that a lot of these problems that are very obvious are solved by bigger companies. But it's those smaller problems that some people think is a problem because they can see that maybe it's not a big problem right now, but in the future, the way things are developing, it is going to be. So let's build something for that. That's the problems that the big companies are very good at missing out on, those opportunities. Very good point, Rayan. Andrew, go ahead.
Just a question that I saw in the chat. How does Zoom make money?
Thank you.
That is a very good question. Let me tell you exactly how they make money, because they make money off of us. We are a company that uses Zoom as an integral part of our business to teach you guys. And so we spend hours on Zoom every single day. And what we do is that we are 3 co-founders at Curly Brackets, myself and Alex and Annie, of course. And so we buy 3 different licenses from them that we pay them on a monthly basis. I believe it's $15, $14.99 per person. So that's what, $45 that we pay them every month? And that's what we do. And
So it's a subscription.
it's a subscription basis. That's how they make money.
that's
Now, you can use Zoom for free. However, if you use Zoom for free, there are a lot of limitations that
Yeah,
would.
no breakout rooms.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. So we really like Zoom, and so we think that's a great price to pay to run our business. That's how Zoom makes money. Yeah. All right, guys. I think we'll stop there. Let's stop.